In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Let us pray for justice, peace, especially in this country. People voted today that through that election, some good action inspired by the Holy Spirit will produce justice and respect of life. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Mary, seat of wisdom,
pray for us.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
So today we begin the last part of our class for the first semester, psychology. We call that psychology, the study of the psyche. The psyche in Greek means the soul. Psyche. Oh, yes, psyche. Today is, I will write that because for the record. What number? 21. So when we use the record, we know, otherwise it's difficult to do. So in fact, there are many words to express that part of philosophy we call here psychology. Usually you say rational psychology, rational, to make a difference between scientific psychology based on the study of the behavior of people. But there is other words. Personally, I prefer philosophy of man or philosophy of the human person. For me, the best is philosophy of the human person. It is the title of book of Father Reichmann, James Reichmann, Philosophy of the Human Person. If ever you want to complete your formation or your information on philosophy of man, the best book I know, it is that book. Yeah. Excellent. It is not difficult to read. It is the fruit of 18 years of teaching. Father Reichmann used that 18 years. And his colleagues in many other colleges used his book. Finally, he published that, and it is very, very good. So we have another word here in the new terminology is philosophical anthropology. In fact, it is exactly the same thing as philosophy of man, because anthropos in Greek, anthropos means man, philosophical. So the study of man at the philosophical point of view. And to study that, you will know that we use philosophy of nature. In fact, philosophy of man, or psychology, rational psychology, is a part of philosophy of nature. Last week we studied, 2 weeks ago, we studied philosophy of nature in general. We studied matter and form, we studied motion, time, space, and now, but that is for every kind of being. Now we study living being, those who have the possibility to grow, to assimilate. So here we have the object. We study first in large, all living organism is the position of Aristotle. Aristotle, when he speaks about psychology, he speaks about any kind of life. So the flowers, the plants, animals, and man. All those beings are covered, included in the title of rational psychology for Aristotle. But in fact, among those living beings, some have a nervous system, others don't have a nervous system. So those who have a nervous system, we put them apart. And when we study psychology, we study that. We study those who have a nervous system, those who are sentient, those who have sensory knowledge. So every animal with a little capacity of moving by itself and using, even if it is a very little brain, like hands, but they are sentient. Okay? But for us, we will go narrow. We will go to the sentient, who is intelligent, who is free man. But to understand man, we have to understand sensitive knowledge. We have to know what is sensitive knowledge. That means we have to study what is common between us and other animals. For example, other animals, they have senses, 5 senses, as we have 5 senses. They have imagination, they have memory, and they have maybe got formal memory, but they can recognize their master, for example. So in fact, it is the study of a higher organism having a nervous system, having a sentient life, a sensitive life. So next paragraph. Psychology has no first principle of its own because it is a part of natural philosophy. So in natural philosophy, we saw the first principle, for example. So the principle discovered in natural philosophy, matter and form, for example, substance and accident, they will be used here. In fact, we will see, we will refer considerably to philosophy of nature and to logic. Because in logic we study substance and accident. So those things will come back. You will realize the utility of logic. When you study that, it is dry, but now you see, Father knows best. I think you cannot study the rest of philosophy if you don't study logic. And logic is really the learning of a new language. Otherwise, you use the same word, but you don't understand the meaning. A matter, everybody will speak about matter, they speak about wood or cement, stone, but you know, now matter has another meaning, and form has another meaning. Okay, so number 21.3. Its first principle are matter and form. We saw that. And at the same time, studying matter and form, you remember, we study also act and potency. Strictly speaking, the notion of act and potency, they are metaphysical notions. But we cannot escape to study that at the beginning, because it is, in fact, the theory of act and potency is more general than the theory of matter and form. Because even spiritual beings are in act and potency. Only God is pure act. Okay? Except that in living things there is a special type of form, and that form in the living thing is called the soul. So in fact, we should say psychology is the study, word for word, is the study of the soul. I don't like that. The study of the soul. So when we say form, we say the form is determining the matter. We saw that last week. Like my soul is determining my body. So I can say the soul is the form of my body. So that is special type of form. But we call that also an entelechy, the soul of entelechy. I will speak about that. Entelechy. And that means, telos means finality, and ekein means to have an end. If there is a progress, when a flower is growing, when a little cat is growing, etc., they are tending toward an end. The end is to become a complete cat or a complete flower. That is the reason why we call that entelechy. I don't explain that for the moment. This form, so informs primary matter. So we saw that last week. In fact, it is a summary of what we studied before. So the form, any form, determine matter. For example, this desk is made with wood, but with the idea of a desk. And that bench is made with wood with the idea of a bench. So the form is not the same. The difference here, that is not living. But the flower, the tree, the cat, and myself, we are living. So that form is determining matter, and not only corporeal, not only delimiting the, matter. We saw two types of matter, remember? Prime matter and secondary matter. Prime matter, first matter, prime matter, and secondary. So, and what you remember that prime matter, in fact, does not exist. Exists only in my mind, because it is impossible that a thing exists without any determination. Or prime matter is matter without any determination. It's privation of any determination. So all the other matter determined already without secondary matter. Or corporeal. Here they use the word corporeal. A body. Corporeal. Or body. Corporeal. Or bodily. Having a body. The matter, in the case of living, corresponds to the body. Corporeal, that comes from Latin, corpus, corpus, body. Corpus Christi, the body of Christ. And also, but also animated in a specific way. So animated by a soul. So the form is incorporated in the secondary matter, in the corporeal matter, which we called that last week, quantified matter. Quantified matter or signate matter, and so the form is we call it is informing a body in a special way, that means a way of animation. In fact, the difference between the form of the desk here and the form of my body is that the form of the desk is informing a non-living matter, and my form is informing a living matter. And that is interesting to see. The word form, the concept form, is analogical. Analogical. The form of my soul, my form, and the form of the desk, both forms and determine matter. But one determine matter in a non-living way, no life. The other determine matter giving life, animation. Anima in Latin means soul. And you have the word animal. Animal, they have a soul. Animal means being, having a soul. What is soul? Life. In fact, life, soul is the principle of life. When I say soul, I can say life. Every time I say life, I can say soul. Every time I can say soul, I can say life. They are the two sides of the same reality. One is the cause, the other is the effect, but they are inseparable, absolutely inseparable. I cannot have life without a soul. If I have a soul, I have life, because soul is principle of activity of life. Okay?
Father, the
Yes.
corporal piece of that, the corporal piece
That
of the
means-
form. So if I'm born without an arm, does that mean my form is not?
No. You can be born without arms, you're still
Well, it's still a human, but it's trying-
yes. Corporeal means here body, material body.
Anything through, but
It can be,
as long as I'm rational.
you can have long hair or short hair, there's nothing. No, what makes you, of course, if you are not a perfect body, of course, if you are born without arm, for example, some people, but you are a human. You are a complete human, except at the point of view of biology, you are lacking something, but you are a person. A person. Okay. Now, next paragraph. topics discussed in philosophy and philosophical psychology. Another term, philosophical psychology. So the object of rational psychology is life. Life, or psyche, but we can say, in fact, we study life. What is life? What are the conditions for life? What are the manifestations of life? In fact, everything in psychology is linked with life. We don't study dead body, we study living body. Living body, life. Okay? And life is, we cannot see life directly. How we can see a being is living? Through its activity. I give you an example. In Cameroon, I have a cat, a very, very special cat. He was raised with my dog. They arrived together the same day. They were together all the time. I said, I have a camera, I will have a beautiful movie. And imagine they eat in the same plate. So my cat was like a dog. When he saw to me, he ran after me, he was turning around me like the dog, the same thing. A day I arrived at the garage to take my car, and my cat was completely immobile. You see, he's dead. I can take it, no reaction. But I have a class in the morning, I say, I have class, I will go to teach. This afternoon, I will take it because in Africa you can let an animal a long time outside because the weather. So in the afternoon, I come back, no cat. So I say maybe a vulture took it. So then what I saw, my cat coming to me with a beautiful smile. He was living. How I know he was living? Because he was moving. In fact, what happened, at that time we have many rats, 8 rats. And to kill them, we put poison. And probably he ate or he bit one of those rats and he had the poison in himself. But you know, a cat has 7 lives. But unfortunately, he disappeared already. I am sure he finished in the belly of some people in the parish. Because they like that. They like that. Especially the cat of the priest. He's a holy cat. and they will be blessed in communion with the cat. Okay. So we go through knowledge, for example. We see people, they know. From knowledge, I can conclude that they are intelligent. They can take decisions. I can conclude they are free. Or they are tending towards some pleasure, some useful thing, some toward any spiritual good. I can say they have appetite. So we know things, we know the soul through its effects. We know life to the effects. Okay? So here you have 2 definitions given, one by Father Vulner. The first is the science of human mind and conscious act, psychology. Well, here you can see in mind it is intellect, the intellect and the will. Okay? Well, Jolivet gave you, I like the definition, just rational psychology is the study of the nature and destiny of the human soul as the first principle of psychological phenomena considered as a whole. That means we study the soul as the source of the whole activity in man. If I eat, it is because of my soul. If I have no soul, I will be dead, I will not eat. So even my vegetative, my growth, my sensitive activity, my suffering, my pain, my joy, all that is animated by my soul. I have only one soul. Even if we have 3 kinds of life, we have the vegetative life because we grow like a flower. We have a sentient life, sensitive life, like my cat, my dog, animal. And we have rational life. But, you know, what we can, the higher can assume the lower. So St. Thomas said we don't have 3 souls, a vegetative soul, animal soul and spiritual soul. We have only one soul, able to animate a everything, everything. Okay. That is the definition. Okay, next page. Notion of activity. Bon, activity in general, according to Father Wilner, is the operation of use of a power. In fact, activity or act. Well, the first act is to exist. The other act are second act. So when we speak about activity, it is about second act. Okay, my act attain an object. I cannot act. For example, I see, I must see some color, some object. I smell some other, etc. But that act is performed by a power. For example, my sight, my eye, see a color. And all those operations I have many acts. I can read, I can walk, I can think, I can will, etc. And everyone attains an object, a different object, a specific object. And for every act, I must have a special power. The power of knowing is not the same power as the power of deciding. My will and my intellect are not the same power. They are in my mind, but they are in my soul. They are the powers of my soul. My sight, my touching, etc., my different senses, imagination, they are not the same, they are different. But all those powers are in the same subject. And that subject is I. In fact, there is only one pronoun in every language on earth, I. The other is I. You, it is your I. You, I. The I of you. Is the I of E. In fact, everyone is if I say Peter eats an apple, in fact, it is the I of Peter who eats an apple. If we say that in grammar, what do we say? What is the function of Peter? The subject. No? We studied that in the 3rd grade, the subject of to eat. Now, you know what is the subject? It is what is under the power. So the subject here, that he has many powers, and those powers can have many acts, and these acts attain many objects. And I is under all that. And to be able to exercise those powers, my I must be living. So the life is the principle of activity. In fact, my nature is to be made with body and soul. Body and soul. So I act with my body, but because of my soul. Okay, I continue. Immanent activity and transitive activity. Well, in fact, when I look at different activity, I have, for example, I can kick a ball, I can play golf, I can eat hamburger or lobster. I can watch a movie or contemplate the moon at night. Tonight is beautiful. All those activities are not the same level. But when you eat, where is the result of your activity?
In your belly.
In you.
Nourishment.
So that activity, the result of that activity stays in you. We call that an immanent activity. If you kick a ball, if you play golf, it is a transient or transitive activity. Well, let us begin by immanent activity, because it is the characteristic of the living. The character. Of course, the living, my dog, my cat was moving. That is a transitive activity. But material thing can move, the sun move, the star move. They are not living. We are turning, moving on the earth. So even the electron move in the atom, they are not living. So energy is not necessarily life. It's different from life. So immanent, that means the activity which has its principle and its term within the agent. The agent, when you eat, who is eating you? You. You are digesting, and at the same time you assimilate. What you eat a cow. Because when you eat a steak, you eat a cow. I don't think that comes from a mosquito. So, but so you have the action of digesting, and that become you. And the greater honor we can do to a cow is to eat it, because she was not intelligent and now become intelligent. Immanent. You study. You are the principle of your learning. But at the same time, you are the one who benefits that you assimilate. Normally, when you study, what you learn becomes you, a part of you. And you can use that. When you were 10 years old in the kitchen, when your mother taught you how to make a pie, for example. So you were, if you were attentive, you were the agent of your learning. You want to learn how to make a pie, and after that, not only you know, now it's not a part of you. So you can go and another place and you can make a pie because it is a part of your personality. You know? So that is assimilation. It's a characteristic of the living. For example, a flower assimilates the rays of the sun, the rain, the rays of the sun, and the rain in the substance needed for its growing. So that is characteristic of a living, immanent activity. Okay, and that is it is on the side of quality, because I don't change my substance. If you understand philosophy tonight, you are not a new eye, you have the same eye. Strictly speaking, it's not true to say we have a new man. St. Paul, before and after his conversion, was the same, and not the same. His eye is the same. So he can say, you know, at the end of his life, he can say, you know, when I was in Damascus, it's the same, but it's not the same. What changed? The accident, especially qualities. Quality. He was not a saint, a quality is a saint. But substantially, it is the same eye. The same eye. Of course, in theology, we say he acquired a super nature. But the super nature is in the nature. St. Thomas says, the super nature does not destroy the nature, but is based on the human nature. God does not create something absolutely new when He gives you a supernatural life. He starts from what you are. And the same, before the baptism, you said I. After baptism, He can say again I. But His I changed in the measure He received new qualities on the Son of God, etc. Okay. And it's interesting to see that we can apply that even in theology. Now, transitive activity, or transient, here there is a mistake. Don't say transient, but transient. It's just after. Which is the term outside the cause. So you have the cause, but the term is outside. For instance, you kick a ball, or you cook tomatoes, or cook potatoes, or you write a letter, all that is, the term is outside. For example, you're writing on your paper here. When you write, it is a transient activity, a transitive activity. Okay? In fact, that transitive activity, if you look at the 9 categories, we will put that in action and passion. Action and passion. Okay? I kick the ball and the ball is kicked. Now, the material definition of life, after that we say the formal definition. Well, life, in fact, which constitutes life at first sight? That is the question. What constitutes life at first sight? And what will, I told you, when I saw my cat dead, I said he is not able to move himself, itself. Therefore, self-movement, spontaneity, spontaneity, self-movement. spontaneity. That means the movement comes from you, from within. Even if the term is outside, when you kick the ball, it is a spontaneous movement from you to the ball. You know? When you study, is it also a spontaneous movement from you, but the term stays in you. Okay? It is the empirical notion of life. To see if life exists, we look at movement, self-movement. Not movement, because you can see a bird passing here. But is the bird moving himself, or is somebody throw the bird, you know? So the difference is there, by himself. Okay? In Latin, sui motio. Some from it, or more. Okay. I will not ask no Latin. Be quiet. Spontaneous movement. Vita motu spontaneo. Life move in motion. Life in motion, spontaneous in a spontaneous way. Spontaneous motu. Nobody, for example, your dog stands up and go to the door because he listened to somebody coming. Nobody took him, and it is spontaneous. A flower grows by itself. Do you every morning say, oh, my beautiful flower, okay, today I will stretch you 1 inch. No, the flower grows by itself. No? Okay? Spontaneous from within. In scientific approach now, no. Here we refer to a French biologist of the 20th century, beginning at the first part of the 20th century, Claude Bernard. But there is another one also in the same school. It is Hans Drich. Hans Drich is known because he was the teacher of Jacques Maritain. You know, Jacques Maritain was a French philosopher, converted philosopher to Catholicism and discovered St. Thomas. For him, it was a kind of a revelation. He became an apostle of St. Thomas. In fact, he is an origin with other Neo-Thomism, a new way of presenting the philosophy of Aristotle, adapted by St. Thomas. So Andrich and Claude Bernard, when they study scientifically the characteristic of life, they find 4 characteristics of every life. First, organization, and differentiation, coordination of function from the first cell. There is a first cell. The first cell is divided systematically, and like that is, from that first cell we have organization. If there is organization, there must be a principle of organization. And that principle, we will call that entelechy. We saw that before. Okay. Secondly, nutrition or assimilation. The characteristic of living, it is to assimilate. A rock cannot assimilate. It can grow by aggregation. It cannot grow by assimilation. We grow by assimilation. A tree grows by assimilation. So transformation of a non-living substance into the substance of a living being. You know, I don't want to make you lose appetite, but when you eat a steak, you eat a dead cow. And from there, we have life. We transform matter into life. Very interesting. And the third is reproduction. Reproduction, division of cells in such a way that the species will continue. And finally, the fourth is evolution. Not evolution in the meaning of Darwin now. Evolution in the living being itself. If you want metabolism, change, continue, assimilating, changing from birth to death. The cycle of life. Okay? That is a characteristic of every life. You take a flower, you take a tree, you take a dog, exactly the same characteristic, 4 characteristics. But I think the most important for us as human beings, it is immanence. of course, animals also have immanence. The flower assimilates. In fact, a flower grows only if it assimilates. A dog grows only if it assimilates what they eat. Sometimes some animals they eat and they are not growing because there is some problem, you know. Okay? So the immanence, a more obvious defining feature of vital activity is immanence. Immanence comes from the verb manio in Latin, manio, and the supern is mansum. In mansum, make mansun in English, no? Mansun. No? That means to dwell. No? Manio, to dwell, to stay. No? Manio. In French, maison. No? Maison comes from that also. Maison, house, and maison in French. Mansun in English. No? Okay. So immanence, the fruit of your activity stays in you. The fruit of your activity perfect yourself. You are perfecting yourself. Self-perfecting. That is the characteristic of life. It is true for animals. It is true also for spiritual being, our soul, our intellect. My intellect grows only if I assimilate. If I don't understand, I don't assimilate, I don't grow. You know, I insist a lot on that with my students constantly. Try to assimilate. Don't try only to learn by heart. Try to understand and to assimilate. Because when you assimilate, that becomes you. You grow. Every time you acquire a new form, a new information, and you assimilate that, it is something you can use after. For example, when your mother taught you how to cook a pie, if you assimilate very well the recipe, after that you can use that to bake other pie. You know? It is a part of you. You don't say every time you cook a pie, that is the pie of my mother. No, it is your pie. Because, yes, it is now you. So, for example, when a teacher gives you an information, when you use that in 10 years, for example, suppose you discuss with your student about freedom, and and in your memory you remember Father Michel said that. Don't say Father Michel said that. It is you now. It is a part of your thinking, of your conviction, you know.
But Father, not every activity that we do is good for us.
No, of course, depending on the object. The goodness of an activity depends on the object. If the object is good, the activity is good. If the object is evil, the activity is evil. We study that. In fact, it is ethics. What are the three conditions to commit a sin? The first is the object. Something. If it is good, it is virtuous. If it is wrong, it is vice. It is sin. Okay? You're right. Not everything is good, of course. Is the reason why you have to make a selection. When you watch television, not everything is good. That is a judgment. We have to judge, to make a selection. We saw that. To judge is to discern. To discern. Okay? Now, here the level of immanence, plant, vegetative life, animals, sentient life. Animals have cognition and repetition. They know. And they desire, they desire. They don't will, but they desire. Your cat desires a good meal, and when you arrive with a little plate with a good meat, and he forgets the mouse, and he runs after you. And after that, when he is well fed, he's too lazy to run after the mouse. But it's funny, I saw a cat on my own eye. Many times I did not have iPod, you know. I saw the cat. He was a cat well fed by I think it was with the sisters in the monastery, the convent. And I saw the cat playing with a living mouse. So the mouse was between his two paws. You know, like ping pong. He played like that, maybe 10 minutes. After that, he was tired. But he did not eat. He left the mouse there. But he had the fun, you know. He didn't think of hunter. He played with that. Interesting, huh? Okay. Animal are memory. They have memory, not memory the past has passed, but they recognize. After 1 year, we are absent for 1 year, he come back, he will recognize you. Huh? We have a sister in Cameroon, an American sister. She left for 1 year. She has a dog. And when she came, your dog will run for. He jumped on her. He recognized her after 1 year. I mean, we have that. Huh? Okay. Comparison between now the living organic bodies and the non-living. But in living organic bodies, self-movement and immanence, and self-movement, another word for that, spontaneity, the same. Huh? Spontaneity of self-movement is just the same. Huh? Assure that living things exist and operate at a higher level than do the non-living, because organisms move themselves to full perfection and maturity through their interactions with other bodies. In fact, we grow with that interaction with we call our environment. Huh? Environment. In fact, environment is not only the wall, the plant. Environment is everything around persons, things, climate, etc. Values. So the living, because organism, in fact, to live, even a cat, an animal, non-rational, he must use his environment to live. He must eat, so you have to go to hunt. We do that in a civilized way. We kill cows with much respect, but we kill them. No? We live, we know through our environment. We need experiences. Those experiences come from where we live. Huh? The contact with objects, with the object around us in our lives. Animals do the same. The animals survive because they are able to use the environment where they live. If they are not able to use the environment, they will die. If you take a lion, you put the lion in the North Pole, he will die because he cannot use the environment. A polar bear knows he will jump in the water to take a fish, but the lion will not do that. You know? So that is, environment is, our reaction with the environment is a condition of survival. We have no choice. No choice. Okay? Even the difference is animal, non-rational, they follow their instinct. And we follow our reason. Okay? The polar bear, since 1,000 years, when he is hungry, he jumps in the water and he tries to catch the fish. But man, he does not go fishing the same way he did 3,000 years ago. Today he has big boat and many. It's different because he has intelligence. Okay? Non-living organic bodies lose their energies at the contact with other things. Chemical reaction. Even the sun continually is losing its energy. In 1 billion years, maybe 1 million years, it will become a dead star. It will be, because energy is not renewing. That's the difference. In a living being, energy can be renewed. You eat, you receive the sun, the vitamin D. The living thing, they can give some energy. After that, it's finished. You know, it cannot renew by themselves. Oil will not renew by itself. A day it will finish. You have to find another way of source of energy. Okay? So, and most of the time, material thing, non-living thing, they lose their energy in the contact with others. But we see that, for example, if you throw a ball, the ball has energy, and when the ball will be in contact with the wall, it will fall down. It loses its energy at the contact of an obstacle. But we don't lose that. We can fight an obstacle, but we don't lose our energy, because we can renew our energy. Okay, the next page. So here we have the definition of life. In fact, to define life, we have to come back to the two notions we saw last week, matter and form. And act and potency. Well, first, life is a movement, passage from potency to act, from, not form, from. The origin, spontaneous, we saw that, but the movement is not totally spontaneous. When your cat stands up and runs after the mouse, it is spontaneous, but it's not absolutely spontaneous. Why? Because there is an object provoking is movement, you know. So it's the same what we say, it's not absolutely spontaneous. There must be something. Of course, it is not the mouse that is the cause of the movement of your cat, but the mouse is the condition of the movement. I give you an example to understand that. You are very thirsty, and you pass in front of a bar, a tavern, and you enter the tavern. Is the tavern the cause of your drunkenness? No. It is the occasion, it is a condition, it's not the cause. So the mouse is not the cause. Why? Because if your cat is dead, the mouse will continue. In fact, your cat moves because he is living, but when you do something, there is a motivation, there is a reason why. In fact, here we apply the principle of sufficient reason. So that means there is no activities without a reason. The first reason is is coming from the living being himself. For example, if you study, it is not because a day you will have a piece of paper or a Roman coin. It is because you will. The movement of studying comes from you. But there is a motive, but the motive does not take your place. You remember when we, no, you don't remember, the other class you will remember. When we study the human will, we say that every time we have a decision, before we must know. The will follows always the enlightenment of the intellect. But the intellect is not the cause of the will. Otherwise, it will be sufficient to teach you virtue, and everyone will be virtuous. If it was the intellect that makes a man being honest, I will go to the jail and give a beautiful conference on honesty, and all the gangsters will be. It was the mistake of Socrates. Socrates, he changed. He said, we make our youth virtuous by teaching. It's not true. It's not sufficient. Lawyers study the law, and sometimes they are gangsters. It's not sufficient to do. You have to will. Okay. Well, the term the end is within himself. Movere ipse ipsum, to move one's self, myself. Okay? So the agent acts on itself. Is the term of his own action. So that when I study, when I eat, the term of my own action is myself. In fact, it is selfish. It is selfish. When you eat, it's for you first, no? You cannot say, I don't eat for myself. It's not true. You eat for yourself to survive, but you can survive for another reason, you know. But in fact, it is the reason why the little children are almost, I will not say essentially, but they are selfish, because they have to survive. It is first survive. And to survive, we must assimilate. Well, of course, we can have a motive to do that, because when we are free, we act always for a motive, a reason. Okay? So the problem in the middle, how this general principle is safe in the case of the living being. That means whoever is moved by another. But if you move yourself, it is apparently contradictory. But it is not contradictory if you move yourself not on the same level. Huh? In fact, it is the same who is, when you eat, you feed yourself. But the action of feeding, you as feeding, is not the same as being assimilating. You know, the same person can do a thing. We call that, in French, we have a word for the pronominal verb. In English, I don't know, we don't have that. In Latin, we have that also. That means I move myself. We have some verb, they are the subject and the object, the complement are one. But in English, we have myself. But in French, for example, I will say, je me lave les mains. I wash myself, my hand. I don't know. It's the genus of the word. It is a verb, the subject and the complement are the same. But they are not the same exactly. Because one is doing the action at the point of view, and the other is receiving the action. When I wash my hand, I am the one who does the action of washing. At the same time, I am the beneficiary. I take benefit of that, but at another point of view. So when I move myself, I am at the same time the agent. I am also the patient. It is what we study when we see when we study the act of knowledge abstraction. We are at the same time the one who illuminates the sense, the image, at the same time the one who receives. So we have, in fact, it is the power of reflection. When you think about yourself, about your action, you are the subject and you are the object. Very simple. Every morning when you wake up and you go to the mirror to see if you are really the same as yesterday. You reflect. You are at the same time the one who projects the picture and the one who receives the picture. A reflection. So when you think about your activity, you are the one who thinks, you are the one who is stopped. But not on the same action. It's different. The action of